Well, a very warm welcome to another vlog. This time around, it's all about spring woodland and capturing intimate landscape scenes, such as the one that I'm standing in right now, and also some macro scenes, hopefully capturing some of the spring flowers. It's mid-April, but I tend to find that in the mountainous areas, and we're in a valley here in Glendalough, the spring flowers tend to come a little bit later than, say, closer to the coast where it may be a little bit warmer. I'm starting the day off in a familiar place. It's a birch woodland in a marshland, and we've had some very, very heavy rain lately. And that heavy rain has saturated the birch trees behind, have saturated the mosses. If you've watched my last video on the bogs in County Offaly, you'll know I came home after one night because the blue skies and the dryness of the bogs and a few days rain really has enriched the landscape. The greens, even the browns from last year, the fresh leaves on the birches, not quite there as you'll see behind me. And timing is important at this time of the year. Every year I come out and I expect to see the bluebells, and there's one or two out, but it's still too early. But for today, I thought I'd come down and start the day in this place where I feel grounded. It's my own little patch. And if you've watched my channel, you know I've made a couple of videos here capturing these birch trees throughout the seasons. And here I am in spring. I'm back on the ground again, a very damp woodland floor with the waterproof pants on. I've come up out of the birchwood and into the oak and beech forest. A few trees down, sizable trees in the storm that we had a few months ago. But I found some cup lichen, quite a lot of them, spread across the trunk. I've just focused in on a clump of them that drew my eye, and I have taken images such as this previously. It's often when we get back to the studio that we realise maybe we were a little bit hasty in the composition and it wasn't as carefully considered. Because when you're dealing with a scene like this, the placement of each of the cup lichens in this case is critical, and very minute movements of the camera up and down, left to right, a centimetre here, half a centimetre there, will ruin or make an image. So I've taken 20 minutes. I've been on this floor for 20 minutes, feeling a little bit damp now. I'm happy enough with the composition. I've taken, I think it's 150 or 200 focus stacked images, f5.6. There is a main subject. One of the cup lichens is quite large, and I've placed it on the right third, or just from the third to the centre. And there's a little grouping to the left, and I've made sure there's just a tiny amount of separation between them. It's just a little sliver. And I've also ensured that they're in focus, and that will give me options in post to use some of the stacked images and maybe blur the background, or all of the stacked images, and have that beautiful detail. Because the detail when we get close up on these cup lichens, it's stunning, absolutely stunning. So I've come up into the beach in Oakwood on a height, and I'm drawn again back into the birches. But this time I'm taking out the 100 to 400 lens. And I have it extended all the way, 400 mil. And I'm just picking out just little abstracts, snippets of the landscape. I was hoping to get clear views of the tops of the birch trees that we were photographing earlier, but I can't do that. There's just so many, there's pine trees, oak trees, beech trees, that there isn't a clear view down. Eventually my eye rested on 2 pine trees, and the branches were crossing over on both sides and touching, and beyond that then we had quite a large birch with those beautiful green leaves, and I thought the contrast was just super. Now, I wish I could get a little higher than this, but I can't. I'm on the highest point looking down into the birch forest. And again, that's important for excluding the sky. We do not want the sky in these images. But the branches stretching across for a moment, and maybe I'm letting my imagination run away from me, reminded me of Michelangelo's painting of the hand of God touching man on the Sistine Chapel. That's a bit of a stretch now, but it's a lovely little image, and I don't know what I'm going to make of it, because that birch tree is in a portrait orientation. It's just too far beneath the branches overhead. I wish I had the birch, the fresh leaves, life coming to the woodland, and those branches touching it in the foreground. But I can't get that. You know, I actually cannot get that unless I climb a tree, and that's not going to happen. So I'll do my best with what I have, but it's a nice little image. No polarizer, a few focus stacking, because I've noticed if you take a photograph in a woodland and you're compressing a scene with a longer lens, often there might be a branch in the foreground that you don't see through the viewfinder, and you end up with everything in focus. You might have taken 2 or 3 stacks, or you might take one image at f10, f11, and you take it home and you've got this big grey blur going through the foreground, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I'm very conscious of that, of ensuring that when I take such images, that I'm aware of everything in the frame. So I'm going to put that image up there now, and we'll move on to the next location. So 3 days have passed since I shot the piece down in the birchwood in the marsh, and of the Scots pine trees with the marsh in the background and those lime green leaves of the birch trees. But in spring, growth advances so quickly, and 3 or 4 days ago there were very few, if any, beech leaves, and today the beech have come out. And I've parked the van in the exact same place, but this time I decided to go up the hills above Glendalough. And it's a thick fog, as you'll see behind me. And I've come up so far, I'm in the fir trees. The froggins here below me, very rich green, and contrasting with the fir trees. But these types of compositions don't really appeal to me. I'd rather go back and find a deciduous tree, another birch, or the beech trees that have brought me up the hill, chasing the mist, because there's no mist down in the valley. We often talk about the beauty of an autumn wood, but a spring wood holds its own. And those fresh growths, the fresh growth of the leaves, of the froggins, of the birch, of the beech, are absolutely stunning. It's a wonderful time of year. There are bluebells coming out in the wood, but they're only here and there around Glendalough. Well, as I descended from the pine forest, the rain and the fog persisted, and I made a number of images of both beech and birch. Well, about 2 weeks have passed since I last ventured out up the hills in the mist and the fog and the rain around Glendalough and in Clara Woods, not far from there at the moment. And the woodland has greened up in those 2 weeks, but it's very dry underfoot, and the crackle of last year's leaves is very audible as you walk along the deer tracks here that divide the little clumps of bluebells. Now, it's quite challenging to find an image that's a woodland image, but centered on the bluebells. This is a nice composition, but what it lacks is the area behind me. I would like that to be filled with the bluebells. Lovely ferns coming out in the woodland add some interest to the shot. And this collection of trees around me would certainly make a beautiful image if I had that mist and rain, a little bit of rain forecast for this afternoon. But well, I think we need bluebells filling the whole space behind me. But what a sight. All of the spring migrants from Africa are in, the swallows and the other hirundines, the warblers, willow warbler, chiff-chaff calling here. It's just beautiful. And indeed, we're at the end of spring. We're at the end of the spring woodland. Another few weeks, we'll be approaching June and into the full summer here. I've been searching the forest floor for greater stitchwort, and it needs time. We need time to just let our eye wander, to slow down as always. And one flower caught my attention, and I have come down low. I have the mini tripod on, and not only that, I put away the 105 macro. And I've brought with me today a lens that is very special to me because the bokeh in this lens is, I think, unparalleled. It's a Zeiss APO Sonar 135mm lens, and I've used it a number of years ago for macro. And it's a manual focus lens, so unless I have the focus rail, focus stacking isn't a possibility. But the types of images that I want to go for this afternoon, just one or two, are images at f2 with beautiful bokeh behind the main subject, the stitchwork in this case. And I've come down low to place the flower between the camera and the bluebells behind. And also to accentuate the brightness and the whiteness of the flower, I've placed a moss-covered oak. Is it oak? It is. An oak tree directly behind it. Now the 135mm lens will get me close enough, and if I need to crop in, I can do that. But it's just one of those lenses, and glass is so important. That just, every time I use it, it astounds me. And I've taken some care with this image. Again, it's just something I've happened upon. I'm not searching specifically one after the other stitchwork, hoping to get a portfolio image. But I'm happy enough with the composition, if you can call it that. It's really just the flower and the textured background, which is rendered beautifully with the 135mm lens. Well, another vlog has come to an end, and I hope you've enjoyed these 3 short outings to explore and photograph a spring woodland. So until next time, thanks so much for watching.